The girl accidentally captured a group of men dumping a body on camera. The horrifying scene made Kelly scream out loud. That scream instantly alerted the killers to her presence. Noticing the camera in Kelly's hand, the four men decided they had to destroy the evidence. After a tense chase, Kelly quickly ran back to camp. She grabbed her climbing gear and bolted toward the mountains. She believed the men weren't skilled in climbing, and as long as she could reach the top of the cliff, she'd be safe. But the ruthless men had no intention of letting Kelly go that easily. Without hesitation, Taylor began climbing after her. Taylor's legs were shattered in the fall, but instead of scaring the others off, the sight only enraged them further. They carried Taylor back to the camp, shoved painkillers into his mouth, fearing their murderous act would be exposed. They didn't dare call for help. Instead, they grabbed their climbing gear and set off to hunt down Kelly. Meanwhile, Kelly had switched into professional climbing shoes. She kept climbing without a moment's rest. Kelly knew those men below wouldn't let her go easily, and the men weren't actually worried about her escaping, because the cliff she was on rose nearly 1,000 meters, nearly vertical. No one could possibly climb down to the base. At that moment, Zach found Kelly's dropped phone at the base of the mountain. When Josh saw the phone, he immediately thought of the injured Taylor. He suddenly claimed he needed to go back to camp to get his climbing gloves. After Josh left, Zach grew suspicious of his real intentions, because he knew Josh was a devious and untrustworthy person. Unsettled, Zach decided to secretly follow him back to camp. The sun grew more intense, and the cliff became even steeper, faced with a small animal in her path. Kelly was so tense she didn't even dare breathe. Cold sweat poured from her body uncontrollably. Fortunately, the animal was a herbivore. It had no interest in Kelly, which allowed her to breathe a sigh of relief. She took the opportunity to rehydrate, but with one careless move, her water bottle slipped and fell off the cliff. Down below, Josh saw it drop, then grabbed his own bottle and drank heavily. Then he picked up Kelly's phone. He began reading aloud the flirty text messages between Kelly and her boyfriend. Clearly, Josh's move infuriated Kelly, but she knew he was doing it on purpose. He was trying to mess with her head and throw off her focus. Kelly applied grip chalk to her hands and refocused on climbing. As long as she reached the summit, she could escape. Kelly pretended not to hear him, because even the slightest distraction could be fatal. But soon, Kelly faced a major obstacle. Up ahead was a smooth, vertical cliff face. Her hands began trembling uncontrollably. Suddenly, she spotted a climbing rope left behind by someone else. Without hesitation, she reached out with her right hand. Kelly bit into her climbing pack, then pulled out the wire hidden inside. She saw an abandoned tent above her. Kelly's heart filled with hope. Like a gecko, she coordinated all four limbs, inching upward with control and precision. Step by step, she moved closer to the tent above. At last, she climbed onto a protruding rock, but unfortunately, a much larger boulder overhead blocked her path. Kelly recalled the training she'd gone through in the past, but it was clear this challenge pushed her beyond her limits. But just then, something even worse happened. Three men had taken a different route and arrived directly above Kelly. Although a large boulder blocked their view, they guessed that Kelly was hiding right beneath it. Kelly had no climbing gear. She couldn't go up, and she couldn't go back down, so all she could do was sit down and rest. From above, Josh shouted that if Kelly handed over the camera, they would let her walk away alive. As he spoke, he lowered a rope down to her. Of course, Kelly knew these ruthless men would never let her go. She attached a piece of paper to the rope. When the rope moved, the three men thought Kelly had agreed to their deal, but when they opened the note, all they found was a written insult. Kelly then scanned her surroundings. The sun had already set, and night was quickly approaching. When she saw the tent nearby, a glimmer of hope lit up in her eyes. Meanwhile, up above, Sam was growing increasingly worried about Taylor's injuries back at the campsite. He wanted to call and check in on him, but Josh stopped him immediately. Zach was suspicious, but he chose to stay silent for now. At the same time, down below, Kelly was lucky enough to find a water bottle, but not a single drop of water remained inside. Thankfully, the tent was still usable. She pulled out the only climbing tool left in her backpack, wedged it tightly into a crack in the rock, then used it to anchor the tent. After confirming it was secure, Kelly finally dared to crawl inside. However, just when she thought she could safely make it through the night, in that critical moment, Kelly grabbed hold of a jagged rock. She watched as her backpack tumbled into the bottomless abyss below. Her heart began to race uncontrollably. After taking several deep breaths, Kelly looked once more into the endless drop beneath her. A sudden chill ran through her entire body. Above her, Josh seemed disappointed to see that Kelly had survived. Night had fully fallen, and Kelly returned to the tent. She thought she had finally bought herself some time to rest. But without warning, a sharp knife pierced through the tent. Kelly screamed in panic, completely caught off guard. The unexpected strike slashed into her thigh, drawing blood. Zach was quickly pulled up. He saw Kelly standing right behind him. Josh immediately grabbed Kelly by the hair. Kelly pulled the knife from Zach's thigh. She quickly used it to cut off her own hair, and just as the tent fell off the edge of the cliff, Kelly managed to leap back onto the rock. Several attempts to take the initiative failed. Sam decided to give up and leave. He believed that Kelly didn't have any climbing gear, and that she would never be able to climb up. Without food, she would eventually have no way to escape. They could simply leave Kelly to fend for herself. Seeing this, Josh also decided to give up. He claimed he would call for help immediately and leave first thing in the morning. However, Zach was skeptical of Josh's words. Zach suspected that the injured tailor had already been killed by Josh. Badly wounded, Zach couldn't bring himself to sleep. So, while Josh was asleep, Zach shared his suspicions with Sam. He hoped Sam would help him get down the mountain, but to his surprise, Sam didn't believe what he said. However, as Zach was relieving himself by the cliff, Josh appeared behind him without a sound. For Josh, an injured companion was nothing more than a burden standing in the way of his goals. Below, Kelly watched in horror as a body fell. At that moment, Sam noticed Zach was missing. Josh claimed that Zach had left the mountain on his own. Sam was only half convinced by Josh's story, so he decided to call Taylor, who was injured, back at the camp. The horrifying scene made Kelly too afraid to look directly. Faced with the brutal Josh, Kelly realized she could no longer wait passively. She looked around, and to her surprise, there was a venomous snake not far off. On the other side of the cliff, a knife was embedded in the rock. Though it was a bit far, getting it wouldn't be impossible. At this point, Josh had secured a safety rope to his waist and slowly began to descend. He told Kelly that if she handed over the camera, he would spare her life. But faced with a demon who had already killed his own companions, how could Kelly ever trust his words? Josh pressured Kelly to hand over the camera. Kelly told him it was in the nearby cave. At that moment, the venomous snake, which had been lying in wait, struck Josh's hand. Realizing he had been tricked, Josh unleashed the dark force within him. He pinned Kelly firmly against the wall. As the venom from the snake coursed through Josh's body, Kelly seized the opportunity while he was weakened. She quickly sliced through Josh's safety rope with a swift motion. Facing Josh's desperate pleas, Kelly felt no mercy in her heart. With one firm stomp, She crushed Josh's hand, sending him plummeting into the abyss below. When the sun rose once again, after enduring countless trials, Kelly's indomitable will had carried her to the top. She had achieved the impossible, climbing to the summit of a 3,000-meter peak with nothing but her bare hands.